You're listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks, your source for centered and focused play therapy coaching.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brenna Hicks, the Kid Counselor. This is the Play Therapy Podcast, where you get a masterclass in child-centered play therapy and practical support and application for your work with children and their families. In today's episode, we are continuing with the Art of the Session series, and today we are talking through guidelines for your session. Now, since we've covered up to this point, from the very beginning, first time that we meet the family, and now what are we doing in the play sessions with the child? We just finished the 4 pillars. So we're talking today through guidelines for the sessions. Now, as mentioned, there are 11 things that you should be doing in a play session. There's skills, there are strategies, there are tools. Only those 11 things. What we're talking about today, they are not skills, but they are things to keep in mind, a la guidelines, because there are certain things that we need to be mindful of that don't necessarily fall under one of the skills, one of the 11, but it's very important that we're aware of this and that we're adherent regarding these specific things. So concepts, if you will, that we need to be mindful of that will serve as guidelines. And if you have not listened and or you would like a refresher, I think it would be very helpful to go back for the CCPT Purism series, because we cover some of this in the Purism series, and these are part of this Art of the Session, but that would be a helpful refresher if either you're unfamiliar or you want to listen again. Okay, so we're going to hit 3 guidelines today. The first is following the metaphor that the child has given you, tied into not labeling something. So these are kind of a tandem duo here. So let me talk about not labeling something first. We know that in a playroom, a water bottle can be a rocket ship. We know that a crayon can be a missile. We know that a dragon can be a unicorn. And therefore, we do not label or give a specific word for what the child has picked up, used, played with, looked at, touched, thrown, whatever, until the child has told us what it is. That's the guideline of not labeling something. So what happens is you become the master of using nondescript words. So that, it, those, them. And so you'll say, you grabbed those. You picked that up. Oh, you got it right from the top shelf. And by keeping it very nondescript and neutral, you are giving the child the opportunity to tell you what it is. There are times when the child will not. So you continue to use the nondescript explanations. What I see in play sessions a lot. Child grabs the sword and play therapist says, you got the sword. And I always pause and I always say, is this repetitive play where in an earlier session the child has declared that to be a sword? If that's the case, then it was appropriate to refer to it as a sword. We're going to get to that in a second. That's following the metaphor. But if that's the first time the child picked up the sword, or the child has never told you or declared that that toy in the playroom is a sword to that specific child, then that is no longer adherent to the model. We wait for the child to describe and tell us what it is that they're playing with. So we are not going to label anything until the child makes it clear. If they do not make it clear, we continue with it, that, those, them, all of that. Okay. Now let's look at the tied concept here of following the metaphor. Once a child has given us something, so they pick up the sword and you don't label it as a sword because the child didn't say it was a sword. High five. And then the child says, this is Excalibur and I'm going to have to try to pull it out of the rock. You now are going to follow that metaphor and refer to it as Excalibur. Not only within that session, but across sessions, until the child tells you that it's something new. And this is the same with names that they give toys, what they declare toys to be, how they describe them. Whatever they give you in the way of verbal explanation, you follow it. So when they pick up the water bottle and tell you that it's a rocket ship, you're going to continue to refer to that as a rocket ship until maybe at some point they go, oh, it's not a rocket ship anymore. Now it's, guess what? You have a new metaphor to follow. And this is the process within which we continue to dialogue with kids. We don't label, but we're always going to continue with what they've given us to work with. Okay, so that's the first guideline. Second guideline, neutrality. We did a really long series on this, so if you're unfamiliar or if you need a refresher, please go back to that as well. However, as a guideline within Art of the Session, our neutrality is important for so many reasons, but we have to be mindful that while the dynamic that's created between us and the child is fluid and it ebbs and flows, and one session's going to feel different than another, our goal is that our responses, our nonverbals, our attitude, our tone of voice, the aura of the session is going to be consistently neutral from our side of things. Meaning, we don't have expectations. We don't let our emotions interfere with the execution of the model. We do not respond in such a way that it's clear we have an opinion. Neutrality allows us to unconditionally accept whatever's happening. The child, the circumstance, the play, the environment that's being created, whatever it is, we remain neutral. Now, we have to be congruent. We did a whole long discussion on congruence as well. We have to be congruent. So if we are feeling happy because something happened that made us happy, we accept that and we own it and we acknowledge it. That's the human nature of CCPT relationship. But we don't let the happiness interfere with what's going on for the child. And we certainly don't want the child to say, oh, well, I just did that and it made him or her happy. So now I'm going to keep trying to do that because I want to keep making him or her happy. You see the difference? I mean, there are moments when a kid tells a joke or a kid does something funny or a kid, something happens and it just surprises both of you in a positive way and you both laugh together. That's not lacking neutrality. That's the human condition of CCPT. But your emotion in any given moment is appropriate, and then you're back to neutral. But if a child picks up your protein bar wrapper, because you finished your protein bar and they see the wrapper sitting next to you, and they pick it up and they throw it away for you in the playroom, and you go, oh, thank you so much. That was so thoughtful. You didn't need to do that. You were being so kind. That's not neutral. What you are communicating is what you just did pleased me. And therefore, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have gotten this reaction. There's where we lose the neutrality. So our goal is that we remain fully adherent and nothing phases us to a point where the child is going to have their process interrupted by our lack of neutrality. So if you need more, please go back in and listen to the neutrality discussions because we've talked about that quite a bit. Okay, and then third and final guideline. We do not possess any knowledge or information that the child does not possess. And what that means is we cannot teach, we cannot instruct, we cannot explain, we cannot define, we cannot answer questions. We do not have any answers. When we are in the playroom, it's an even ground, level playing field. We know nothing the child doesn't know. So therefore, when the child gets out of game, how do you play this? Oh, you're wondering how to play this. I'm not sure either. You can say that truthfully, by the way. I'm really, really careful of not lying to kids in a playroom. I'm not sure how to play that either. Truthful, because I don't know how the child wants to play that game. What's the name of that thing when you do this and blah, blah, blah? Oh, you're trying to think of that name. I'm not sure what name you're thinking of. True. So the goal is that you return responsibility because you cannot provide information. When you reflect a feeling and the child's never heard that feeling before, you say flabbergasted and they go, "What does that mean?" Oh, you're wondering what flabbergasted means. We don't answer that question. We're not going to define that emotion for them. I don't understand how this doesn't happen and this. Oh, well, if you do this, then usually that works. Those are not adherent conversations. The guideline says that we know nothing that the child doesn't know. We possess nothing the child doesn't possess. So therefore, we're always trying to make it known that if the child needs or wants knowledge or to figure something out, they have the opportunity to acquire the knowledge or figure something out. It goes back to they're in charge. They get to decide. You are capable and competent. How do you spell such and such? Ooh, you're not sure how to spell that word. And if it's really important to them, they'll figure out how to spell it. I had a session where a 12-year-old girl with dyslexia wanted me to write the word anniversary for her. I actually showed this clip on the collective, so some of you might have remembered this clip. And I said, "Oh, you want me to write this? I wonder what letter comes next." And she really wanted me to write that word. And I continued to return responsibility, and she continued to try to get me to write it. And guess what? She eventually spelled that word. Did it spell anniversary the way the dictionary would spell anniversary? Not even close. But she gave it to her parents anyway, and they hung it up in their bedroom anyway. And at the end of the session, she said, "Did I spell that right?" I don't know any information that she doesn't know. So I said, "Oh, you're not sure if you spelled that right, but you spelled it the way you spelled it." There's a very important component to the no teaching, no instructing, no preaching, no advising. What we're communicating is you are fully in charge. You are fully capable. And you can trust yourself to do anything that needs to be done. And it's far less about the outcome than it is about the effort. So in the grand scheme of things, is there an appropriate way, air quote, to spell anniversary? Yes. But did she feel far more accomplished for struggling and wrestling with how to sound that out and do her best on that banner than me to just spell it for her? Absolutely. That's why we do not give anything to the child. If they don't know and they don't possess it, we don't either. So hopefully those 3 guidelines will serve as kind of a grounding for you. Things to keep in mind for sure. Not skills necessarily, but definitely things that if we are not doing these things, we are likely not adherent to the model. And this series is all about adherence to the model. All right, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you, Brenna@thekidcounselor.com. I am solidifying details for the meetup. I now know the date. I now know, I think, the place. So I'm just waiting for confirmation. So soon as I have that situated, I will have it in the show notes. You can RSVP, and I'm very much looking forward to hanging out with y'all if you're going to be in Houston, or if you can drive to Houston or fly to Houston or plane, train, automobile. I don't care. However you want to get there. If you're going to be in Houston for the conference or you can get there, come hang out with me. It'll be fun. All right. Love y'all. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks. For more episodes and resources, please go to www.playtherapypodcast.com.